everybody. Welcome to the No Level Cap podcast. I'm Sage Ashford. This is the No Level Cap crew. We bring you all the anime, all the games, none of the bullshit. We have a lost episode. We're on episode 1 and we already got a lost episode. Mistakes happen, you know, that's life. But I'm still super hyped to get into it. This week we do an anime, and I do want to get into like anime and talk about like, before we talk about the topic of the week, I do want to ask y'all like how y'all got into anime. So Terrence, there is always a difference between your first anime and what got you into anime. So like, is there a difference for you, Terrence? What's up?
Let's see. So what really got me into anime was like I guess my first anime, it was Sailor Moon, and that was my first anime. But the way that I got into anime that I'm sure most of us are going to talk about is through Toonami. Honestly, like that's the thing, that was the staple of childhood, was running home and seeing Dragon Ball Z, Tenchi Muyo, like Outlaw Star, stuff like that. Yeah, like seeing those shows, Gundam Wing, like all that is what really got me into anime. But Sailor Moon, watching that for the first time, it's crazy because I didn't know what anime was at the time. I had to be like 5 or 6 at that time, and Sailor Moon was on Fox or whatever network they had it on at that moment. There wasn't like there wasn't an anime block for Cartoon Network or any of the other like cartoon channels at that point. And so when I first saw it, I was like, in my head, I was like, this is a cartoon, but it doesn't look like a cartoon. And the fact also that it was a girl, like female protagonist too. Like most of the cartoons that you watch as like a kid growing up, they didn't really have female leads like that. So seeing a show like that had 5 female leads, it was just really cool, and it kind of it definitely had a impact on my childhood. And then getting to see other shows like that along the way, I just continued to fall in love with anime as it went along. Speed Racer was probably the other anime that really had an impact on me. Like we all know, like Speed Racer is like what, from the 70s or 80s. It's a pretty
early 70s, I think.
Yeah, like the 70s. It's a pretty older anime, but at that time, like the Mach 5, and you know, you can make fun of the dubbing and everything now, but at that point, like as a kid, I didn't care about that. It's like seeing that kind of stuff, it looked cool to me. Like Speed going, oh, like that. That for me, that was my shit, watching him do that, him and Trixie and everyone. So that was the main thing. That was what got me into anime. Was first anime was Sailor Moon. Then I watched Speed Racer, really loved that, and then Toonami, and pretty much went from there to like Adult Swim with Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho. I've been in love with anime ever since. Joined the anime club in college and continued to grow my knowledge and love of other shows. It's pretty much when I got to college, I went from only watching like dubbed anime to getting into subbed anime, and you know, now we have it easy where you can watch both, you know, at a click of a button. But that's pretty much how I got into anime. Been a fan since childhood and continue to be one.
You know, it's interesting you picked all of those. Like you went kind of, I won't say you went all over the place, but like you did pick like through different eras of anime, and you talk about like a whole bunch of them. I have like a theory. Well, I won't say a theory, but like an idea about anime and like generations. But I don't want to. We'll get into that right after I get through everybody.
Yeah, else. I kind of condensed my whole.
You did. I mean, like that's cool.
I condensed everything about myself into one part.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Will, my brother, like, is there a difference? Like, was the anime that you first watched, was that the one that got you into anime, or was there like one specific one where you like, this the one that's gonna get me into anime, or that got me into anime?
Actually, no, because just like Terrence, my first was Sailor Moon. I watched that. And I just enjoyed the show for what it was growing up, because I didn't think nothing of like what it looked like compared to everything else I watched. I was just like, oh, it's on television, I'm gonna enjoy it. But I always knew whenever that theme song came on, you had me sit in front of the television. So I'm just like, this is where I'm gonna be at for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah,
do not bother me. But as time went on and more shows started appearing on TV, like Cartoon Network, and having the Toonami run go along with, like he said, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Blue Gender, G Gundam.
Ooh, this man got obscure. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome, my brother. But always enjoyed those shows, and I think where I really stood with anime was Dragon Ball Z. That's where I really stuck with it at, because I was like, I watched this on a regular basis. I came home to this because I wanted to see what was going to happen next each time. And then as time went on, more shows started to appear, like the Zash Bells, the Hamtaros, the Cowboy Bebops. Everything like that would show up on television. Inuyasha at nighttime, and what was it, Blue Submarine? Things like that. Yeah, like all of that would come around and I watched those shows. And the show that stuck with me was DBZ. And ever since then, I've watched from numerous means, from DVDs, Blu-rays, sometimes old VHS tapes, and other means. And, you know, I love it to this day. I have a bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays right now, and I still collect a lot of old shows. I just recently got Magic Knight Rayer, so
nice.
So I'm here just trying to watch stuff, whether it's old, new, you know, finding little stuff in between. It's a wonderful thing. Anime is great to me.
Yeah, you are kind of like the collector in the group, like as far as like video games and anime. Like it just seemed like you like the real like hardcore. Like I got to get the physical media. I was that guy, but I kind of like switched out of it as we got more and more digital stuff. That's all good. I mean, you know,
I'll say to answer your question, Sage, like pretty much like what I guess made me an anime fan, I'd have to agree with Will. For me, it was Dragon Ball Z. Like if I had to pinpoint what show made me a fan, I think that was it.
That's gonna be, I think, most people's answers. It's not mine, but we'll get to me. Devin, is there a difference like between the anime that you first watched and the anime that like I'm an anime fan now? Is there a difference? Which, well, like, if there is a difference, what are they?
So I would have to say there wasn't a difference to me, honestly. I also want to say, I want to notice Terrence's shirt. I just noticed what they said, Plus Ultra. I just realized,
Plus Ultra.
You know, speaking of anime, but I remember, I know, right? I remember this one Sunday morning or Saturday morning or whatever, and it was the most obscure thing, because when I was growing up as a child, younger, we didn't have cable or nothing like that. So, I mean, a lot of shows and cartoons, and most people watched, their friends watched, they would talk about when I come to school. I didn't watch them unless I went to my family's house that had it. But I remember a specific one day on like Channel 9, there was something that came on, and I was like, I had never seen it before. I'm like, what is this? And I'm looking at it, I was like, I had to see this. I'm like, what is this? I had to sit and watch it. And lo and behold, it was Dragon Ball. And it was an episode, I think, of if I remember correctly, when Yamcha was relevant, when he had the green on, when he was the man. Yeah. I think it was an episode of him when Goku went Ozaru form and he cut off his tail. If I remember correctly, it was that episode. And from that, I was like, what is this? What time does it come on? And I got to be in front of the screen. But it never came. And it was the most random thing. Cause I'm like, I've never seen this come on this channel before. I don't know if the radio waves or frequencies got crossed up or something. But I was like, I've never seen this on this channel. So fast forward a few years, of course, I'm in school, I'm getting off the bus. I would usually get off the bus in my family member's house, my cousin's house. They had cable, so he was in a Dragon Ball. And a lot of people, like we all said, Dragon Ball has been a big influence. I do remember watching Sailor Moon early on. And same thing, I was like, man, it's kind of fire. And first off, with me going back, I've always loved cartoons or anything animated. So even before I saw anime, Ninja Turtles, that type of stuff, G.I. Joe, I was just always into that type of stuff, So anything that was like animated on the screen, I wanted to watch it, and I didn't, at that time, I probably didn't even know it was actually considered anime, like, different from Western cartoons. So I just wanted to see it because it looked cool. But yeah, Dragon Ball, man, I was just talking before we started the show, man, about Goku when he first went Super Saiyan and how that's, one of the most pivotal moments in Dragon Ball history, probably the most pivotal moment in Dragon Ball Z history. Such an impactful moment. And I remember the day that I got off the bus, me and my cousins like, man, he about to go Super Saiyan today, man. And we was like, yo, we got on that bus so fast, and and I just remember those are some very fond memories of watching Cartoon Network and Toonami with my cousin. Dragon Ball was that was the first one, but as I went on, I started seeing little hints of Yu Yu Hakusho and stuff. I'm like, what is this? Like, hold on, wait. So all this stuff, I'm like, yo, this is some dope stuff, man. So that's really kind of what got me into it, just like being with family members and them watching it, and then that little spark of me seeing like an episode of anime just out of the blue, and I wanted to see more of it. So that's what got me into it, man. And of course, like I said, it wasn't different. Dragon Ball, which is probably a lot of. If I had to make a number, probably 70% of people that's in the anime, probably Dragon Ball Z had a lot to do with it. And even though I love a lot of other animes outside of Dragon Ball Z, it was what got me into it. So I got to give it its props, man.
I mean, like I said, I figured Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball was gonna be like the top, like the one that got most people in the anime. Rakeem, are you like, was that your first anime, or was that the one that like made you like, all right, this is the one, like I'm in the anime now?
Sorta. So my first anime actually was kind of like you mentioned earlier, that era of I think it was Will who mentioned it, Speed Racer. The combination. Okay, Terrence. I'm sorry, yeah. Terrence. Speed Racer and G-Force that came on the block on Cartoon Network in the evening sometimes. And that, because I was a Power Ranger fan, G-Force appealed to me heavily. I was just into groups very heavily back then. I really liked that combination of like different people coming together to work together and having similar powers and costumes. And when I was a kid, that was the first shows I really, really kind of moved towards. That were first animes, but once again, I didn't know what anime was back then either. I also did watch Dragon Ball Z at an early age because it was on Fox very early for a very short amount of time, maybe like a year or two before their normal block of television, and I got exposed to that really early, and I really liked it. But I think the anime that actually got me into anime, I can't say Dragon Ball Z, I know what it is Ronin Warriors. I remember watching Ronin Warriors, and that was it, bro.
Yeah.
I saw 5 samurai, cold music, cold look. Looking back at the anime now, it's hard to even watch, but at that time when I was a kid, I was locked in, bro. I'm telling you, I had the toys. I remember when they had the episode where the Ronin Warriors got separated to different areas of the planet. I put my toys in 5 different areas of the house and tried to find them like the Ronin Warriors, man. I was really into that anime, bro. I love Ronin Warriors.
I love it.
That, I had to get anime's props. That was them that got me into it. So, of course, the influence of Toonami also after that, because Ronin Warriors did come on Toonami block as well. That block in general, so the Ronin Warriors, the Robotechs, the Gundam Wings that came eventually, Dragon Ball Z as its popularity rose. I would say that block of anime and Toonami, that era of anime, got me into like, okay, I like anything like this. I want to see it. And luckily for us around that time, that was the big anime boom that happened on all the networks. Because people saw the popularity of anime, maybe on Toonami really first. Everyone started getting anime. WB, Fox, you can see animes on USA, Sci-Fi, Action, different channels on satellite
TV,
stuff.
Yeah,
it was everywhere. So not only was I lucky enough to get in at the beginning of this boom, I got to experience so many different varieties of animes in these different networks, and that kind of got me more influence. I watched, Fist and North Star on one network, or the other like Gundam 00 on another network. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. That's Card Captor Sakura.
Ooh.
Of course, the Rise of Digimon, things like that. That got me into anime, and I remember back then that was my era. Was like network television. Everything was on TV. And when I got into high school, it lasted a very long time. I only watched anime on television, mainly Toonami. And my cousin told me one day, you could watch the episodes earlier subbed. And I said, what is a sub? He put me on a website that I will not name. It probably isn't even around anymore. And he showed me Bleach on that website way in advance of what the TV show was. And it was over with after that. I was like, well, this is what I'm doing now. And I watched 100 episodes of Bleach right on that network. So, yeah. I remember the influence of like my early eras from the era of the Speed Racers, the G-Forces, the Toonami era, of course, the big network boom where all the anime was more widespread, and of course the online era now where we're more exposed to anime, especially on things like Netflix and Hulu and Crunchyroll. Now, that all together made me an anime fan. Now, I actively look and still watch anime to this day.
It's crazy. Rakeem kind of, I don't want to say he stepped on my toes at all, because like he didn't, but like it did. Like that was something that I wanted to bring up, because there is like this generational aspect to anime, at least in the West. I won't speak to like Japanese, like how anime developed in Japan, because I don't live there, obviously. But like as far as being in the West, like I was sitting there thinking about it, and I realized like you could kind of break the anime fandom down in like 4 generations. And there's like the 1970s to like, and that's the longest generation, like 1970 to about 97, somewhere in there, like before Toonami. Like all the speed racers, the Macross, the Transformers, because that's an anime too. Like all of that still kind of goes in that same like bucket of like anime fandom. Like people didn't really know it was anime; they was just watching it, and it was like a different type of cartoon. Then you got Generation 2, which I think we all kind of come from. That's the Toonami era, like the early Toonami, like the one where you had to come home from school. Like it's a lot of older kids, it's a lot of younger kids, like in their mid-20s and maybe like the mid to late 20s. They probably don't know that at first Toonami was after school. Like now it's like I remember it was a big deal, at least for me, when they put Toonami on weekends. I was like, oh, weekends? So I don't get the chance to feel like what it's like. Like first off, I won't get to see it but once a week. That's ass. But then I gotta like, I don't get the feeling of coming home from school and being all excited and having something to look forward to. They replaced it with Maguzi, which nobody liked. But like that was like Gen 2 to me, and I feel like there's a difference. Like that's Gen 2 is like 98 to like about 2004, 2005. As soon as they made that switch to like Toonami on the weekends. And the reason why I like to separate that is because Gen 3 is kind of different than Gen 2. I feel like all of us, like everybody here, all named like a bunch of different anime. Like we didn't name just like one anime, like this the one, and I just been obsessed with this. Like Gen 2, we had so many different types of shows we could watch. Gen 3 is the Big 3 era. And all the people that watch Big 3 anime are almost obsessed with Big 3 to like an extent where I'm like, it's a bit much. Like y'all need to watch something else. Like try something else, do something else. And I feel like that generation lasted up until like 2012 when they started the streaming era, and that's like Gen 4. So like I feel like all us Gen 2 dudes, we all have like a different like vibe. Like I know with me, my first anime was like, I want to say Teknoman Blade. Like I saw it on like, just like Devin said, like I saw it on like cable one day, or like not cable. I saw it on like some public channel, like on regular antenna. And I was like, what is this? And I saw like one episode, and just like Devin, I could never find it again.
Yep.
I was like, what is this? Like, I've never seen it. And it created such a thing to me. Like, whenever, like, you know, as kids, you like do like doodles and stuff. Every time I drew something, I always drew something that looked like Teknoman. Like, some kind of way, I would make it look like Teknoman because that art was just so unique to me. But, like, I didn't know what anime was at the time. Then Dragon Ball Z came on, Toonami, Robotech came on Toonami, and I was like obsessed with both of those. But the anime that really sold me on anime was like Gundam Wing. When Gundam Wing came out, that was the first time, like, because Dragon Ball Z had this vibe to it. They kind of took out all the Japanese music. It was already dubbed. Like, it didn't feel too out of place with all the other American cartoons that I was watching. But then I watched Gundam Wing, and it's like giant robots and politics and all this other shit going on. And I mean, like Keem said, like with Ronin Warriors, which I also saw back in the day, like Ronin Warriors, it don't stand up as well. If you go back and watch it, like you go back and watch Gundam Wing, it kind of don't stand up like it used to. Like it ain't as good as Gundam 00. I'll tell you that for free. It ain't as good as Iron Blooded Orphans. It's still entertaining in its own way, but it's not one of those like, oh, I watched this and it's just like a cold hard clap. Like it's top 10 clap. Like it ain't all of that. It's kind of just but I mean, it was the show that like I seen it. I like watched that show so many times. You know, we all watched Toonami and shit like back when they used to do hella reruns and they just run the same show over and over again. And I watched it every time. I never felt like, yeah, I ain't watching it this time. I'm like, nope, I watched it over and over to the point that I had broke down the plot arcs. Like I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I was breaking down the plot arcs. I was like, this part 1, where the main villain is this part 2, this villain like take over, and then in part 3 you got this. I was obsessed with that show, and that was the one that made me go like, all right, I gotta start checking out other anime. And eventually I bought like my own anime. Like the first anime I ever bought was Sorcerer Hunters. I still love that, even though it's not all that, like it's just like, it's not an amazing anime, but it's still in my top 20. I'm just like, I just can't kick it out. I love it too much. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to do the intro so that everybody can kind of get a feel of what we like and what we don't like, or like what we like at least, where we came from, how we got our starts. Because I wanted to ask y'all, has anime nostalgia kind of gotten out of hand a little bit to y'all? Because like every time I look at a new anime series, it's always like, check out this show. Like there's, make no mistake, there's 40, 45 anime come out every 3 months, like clockwork. So it's never as bad as we think it is, but it's still kind of. I feel like every time I turn around, there's a new remake. Like at first, it was cool when they remade Brotherhood, when they remade Full Metal Alchemist back in 2009. It was like okay, yeah, and it turned out to be like a classic. Like that's one of the most beloved anime of all time now. But like ever since then, every time we turn around, there's like a new. Like you had Hunter x Hunter that worked out well, but Sailor Moon Crystal, not as much. Like you got a lot of hardcore Sailor Moon fans. It's like I don't know about this. Like you keep this. Like it ain't like people be like, oh, it's more accurate to the manga, and they be like, I don't care. I don't want that. I want this. Now they remaking Urusei Yatsura, which is like from the 80s. I'm like, was anybody asking for that? Like I'm gonna check it out because I like the old shit, and I do have a little bit of like old Taku in me where I just kind of want to check out old shit. But like, was anybody asking for that? Now they got a remake of, not a remake, but like a sequel of Zatch Bell. They bringing back Bleach, and I mean, like, I know Bleach needed to finish, but like, it's been 10 years. Like, Bleach was off the air for 10 years, and they still brought it back. And to some extent, I feel like that's just as anime gets bigger, they're more scared of taking risks. They're more scared of trying new shit, and so like, you'll get a lot of stuff that's safe. Like they know they got an audience, and it feel like Hollywood a little bit. Like I know and that was another reason why I wanted to ask how y'all got into it, because like Gen 2, because we saw like it was always a new show. Like Bleach and Naruto and One Piece, they ran 30 fucking years, however long they've been running forever. Like they've been running since 06 and 07 in America, and they no signs of stopping. But when we got into it, a show ran 13, 26, 48 episodes. It was out of there. Outside of like Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho, like you got your 40 episodes and it's time to move on, try something new. But like now it's like we not trying nothing new. We gonna give you what you liked back in the day, and we gonna put it in your face. Like get some of this. And so I'm wondering, like, does it bother y'all, like, as like anime fans? Does it bother y'all at all that they do a lot of remakes and stuff like that? Devin, does it bother you, or are you like cool with whatever?
So you actually made a good point, Sage, right before you handed it off that I was going to mention that look at the age we're in. Look at gaming, look at Hollywood, and now anime is, I guess they're trying to take a follow. Gaming the past few years, Capcom is a lot of remakes, that were successful. Final Fantasy VII, one of my favorite games of all time, and I think a great remake. There are some things about it that could have been changed, but I think overall they did an outstanding job on like reinventing this game into the way like of this new age of technology, and I think they did a good job of holding true to like what people liked about the older games. Even certain spots in the game that we thought that wouldn't work in this new age actually worked out. So I think my only issue is if they don't take loving care of it. If they just kind of throw it out to like be, oh, this is a cash grab. That's usually to me my only complaint. Recently with like movies, The Matrix Reloaded is one of my favorite movies. Just The Matrix in general is one of my favorite series. And then they come out with Matrix 4, and I was like, man, if they do a Matrix 4, this would be awesome. And then it's like, it's utterly trash. And like, that's why I have the issue with it. When you bring out stuff to pull on those heartstrings of the people that like this content, like, oh, I know they've been waiting on this, we're going to give it to them. But it's like, you don't actually put the effort into it to make it good. It's like, it's all, the source materials are like, and when you do a remake, the source material is already there. So if you want to do it, all you have to do is just be able to translate it in a new medium. When it comes to anime, it's going to be a new animation style. Just make sure like the animation style works. It's new and it kind of invigorates like this newness to it. Because you want to have like a nostalgic feel, but you also want to have like somewhat of a newness to it. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake, I know I'm going back to gaming, but it's like, yeah, it's in this new style because it's obviously on the PS4 now, but you still hold true to all the art style worked perfectly for it. So I feel like it's an issue for me. And even you mentioned Hunter x Hunter, because I remember going back and watching. I never knew of the original Hunter x Hunter when I watched the remake. Because I love Hunter x Hunter. That's one of my favorite anime. And then I found out about, oh, this was actually already done before. And I went back and watched it, and I was like, yo, I'm kind of glad they did a remake because, seeing some of them, I remember the scene when they were fighting what was it? The Phantom Troop had coming out. What the Shadow Beast? Raheem 9, because he already know what I'm finna talk about. when they came up with those guys, they're like, oh, the Shadow beat the man. Boy, hey man, Phantom Troop finna get bodied. Man, them dudes came up and got washed so fast. I'm like, what? If you go back and watch that in the old art style in the original, it looks terrible, bro. I'm like, yo, maybe I could have had an appreciation for it if I'd actually watched it before the remake, but man, it was like, bro, I can't do that. Now after watching Hunter Cross Hunter. So, and I guess we'll say, would you consider like Dragon Ball Kai being in the same category?
I definitely would. Like that's still in the same. Like they retouched some of the animation some places. They cut filler out, and so yeah, it counts to me.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about when you said it. And even with Dragon Ball Kai, to me, I didn't watch it in its entirety, but I'm pretty sure everybody here can attest to this. When Dragon Ball Kai was first revealed to be coming out, they had this animation style. You're like, what? It's gonna look like this? It's gonna look like the Dragon Ball Budokai intros? Oh my! You like, bro?
Yes.
Boy, we were so excited, man. We was like, man, I can't wait for this to come out, boy. Then it come out, you like,
they got us.
What is this? This don't look no better than this. What is this? So that's what I'm talking about. That type of stuff right there. Don't do it to folks. If you're gonna remake something, do it well. Make sure if you're gonna do it, that means you're already wanting to appeal to the people that already loved it back in the day, and you're trying to get some new audience members too. So that means you gotta make sure to take care of them folks that were fans of it before. Now I know Sage mentioned Bleach. I love Bleach, one of my favorite animes. I know it's everybody talks about some of the filler, and I agree some of it was a little unnecessary, but with them ending it, I feel like this should have been done already before. And it is crazy to see how long it's been. And then now, just like, oh, we're gonna finish it. Like, dang, it took this long. I almost kind of feel like with Samurai Jack. Like Samurai Jack had been gone for so long. It was like, oh, yeah, we gonna fit. Like, what? This man been trying to get back to the past for forever. And now, yeah. So it's like, but I do think from what I've seen from Samurai Jack, it was done fairly well. I think I hadn't seen it in its entirety, but
half and half.
Half and half.
I'll leave it there.
Okay. Well, I guess they took somewhat care, but yeah. To answer your question, Sage, when it comes to this type of stuff, remaking these, rehashing animes and stuff, just make sure to take care of it. I wanted to put Naruto in that category, but I don't. Boruto doesn't really count because that's like it was a sequel. I know you just mentioned like a Zatch Bell sequel, and that's been.
It counts to me.
Well, yeah.
It's like when you think about it. I mean, it's not like they brought it back. It's more like Naruto just never went anywhere. I know like a lot of Naruto fans, they don't like the sound of that, but like I don't care what you like. The fact is, all the old cast members are in this new show. Yeah. It ain't no alternate universe. They didn't skip ahead 50 years. It's the same cast with like some new people added. So it's just a sequel to me, and it shit just been running forever.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm getting ready to close, I will say that it's one anime I feel like this wouldn't work with. And I know Brotherhood is one of the favorites of people. I think I may have started watching the original Full Metal Alchemist, but I didn't finish because one of the reasons I didn't finish it because I heard so many people talk about, oh man, Brotherhood is just so far superior. I just went on and finished Brotherhood, and I mean it's one of the best anime I've ever watched. It was such a good story. The fights are insane. There's one anime I feel like it just wouldn't work on, and it's one of my favorites, but probably the fact that it's so long, it's like 1 million episodes, and y'all probably know what I'm talking about, but just by saying, you see, you already know I'm talking about One Piece. If they remake One Piece, but that'll be a feat in itself.
You gotta end it for a remake.
That's what I'm saying. So it ain't gonna never get remade because
One Piece gonna outlast the heat death of the universe, bro. That shit gonna be running forever, bro. Like it's never going nowhere.
We gonna be 40. He gonna still be looking for One Piece.
It'll be roaches going across the planet, and somewhere a new chapter of One Piece gonna still be coming out. I don't know how, but Oda gonna figure out a way. He gonna have like a robot write the shit, writing like some outline, and just like, yeah, I wrote the outline. And it's just writing full script and putting it out every week. That shit not going nowhere, so you're not gonna get no remake of that.
But yeah, I like I said, my main point was that just make sure you take care of it, because like as soon as you said, my first instinct was Hollywood, how they take so many things and they remake them, but it's like they're never good. And that's why I just hate it, because every time it happens, they just flop. It's like, bro, if you're going to remake something, do your due diligence. Don't just be like, because like I said, The Matrix, great movie, to me, I feel like Keanu Reeves is a great actor, one of my favorite actors. You gonna put him in this trash movie? This could have rebooted so much. And so, same thing with anime. If y'all gonna do it right. Do it right.
I agree with that. Like, I think a lot of anime, it's at this point it's like a 50-50. Like some anime, you get a remake and it's cold. Like Heroic Legend of Arslan is cold, and Legend of Galactic Heroes is cold. So you get like remake, and Hunter x Hunter, of course, that's cold. Like you get some cold remakes. Adventures That Die, that's a remake. People really fuck with that. But then you also get the other end, like Digimon Adventure, like the new Digimon Adventure. Like I've heard very little good about it. Shaman King, the animation is good, but it's like compressed too much. They like it's a shorter anime, but they covering more of the manga. I'm like, you can't do it like that. And then there was another anime that came out. This is a really obscure one, but I really fucked with the manga when I was growing up. Hoshinanji was like really good. Like it was a good manga, and they like it was like a really short 26 episode anime back in the day, but it was like a 203 chapter volume story, and then they like turned it into the manga. Like they redid the manga, and they was gonna try again, but somehow it was fewer episodes. It was like 23 episodes. Like I watched like 2 or 3. I'm like, okay, I see this is just a cash grab. Y'all just want some money. I just stopped. Like just like Devin said, like they didn't care. So I mean, like it's a 50-50 on that one. Rakeem, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like nostalgia has gotten out of hand, or are you like, okay, it's plenty of new stuff. Like, if you don't like the remakes, get over it. Like, how do you feel?
There definitely is plenty of new stuff because I actively now look at every season of anime and try to find a new show to watch. But before that, I just kind of focus on what I favorite. When it comes to the nostalgia, man, like it can go so many different ways. Because like you said earlier, there are people who are just so hardcore to their specific shows that they like. The big three, of course, having a broad audience in the West.
We're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
So that nostalgia can like cloud your judgment. Like one thing I cannot stand anymore, I just can't, is like the power scaling to other shows. Like you'll have a protagonist in one show and they're trying to power scale him to Goku or power scale him to Naruto. It's like, oh man,
can he beat Goku though?
Can he beat Goku?
They tried to do it with One Punch Man. I was like, just shut up, please. Just shut up. I'm not going to deal with this.
Can he beat Saitama?
Exactly. Like
Exactly.
The power scaling issue is one I've noticed is really I can't deal with it. So like I totally think that some forms of nostalgia, like I don't like when nostalgia blinds you from like noticing the good things about shows and only focus on the flaws compared to the shows that you love. I think if you're going to have nostalgia, you should appreciate what other shows bring to the table that complement or improve on what shows did in the past. Like the animation for Demon Slayer, I don't care what nobody says, that shit is phenomenal.
Facts.
Every episode is amazing.
Facts.
It's been a minute since I've seen an anime that every episode is beautiful. They really put work in that animation, and you have to appreciate that.
You can do that when you don't pay your taxes.
But yeah, like I think nostalgia can be out of hand. Now, as far as the remakes, I believe that personally, I would prefer to see remakes of shows that did not get finished the first time. I think those are the shows that can be prioritized, like shows that had really good mangas or really good stories that just didn't quite add up to the anime. I know one anime I really like that I wish you could just go ahead and just remake because it's been enough time now. Dead Man Wonderland. I watched my first episode of Dead Man Wonderland. I couldn't put it down. I was addicted. Then that last episode hit, and there was some weird side. The last one was like some weird, like one character arc thing that had nothing to do with the rest of the show. I'm like, what is this? And they just stopped, and I was like, wow, this is terrible. And that was like, it's been so long now. I was like, I would not mind them just remaking that and just continuing the story from wherever it was in the manga. How it went for the manga. Of course, different things come up. Not every manga finished. Sometimes the creator passes away. Sometimes you have issues. Sometimes the anime is better than the manga. How it ended. Or like I remember Terrence talked about Hitman Reborn, how you feel like the manga should have cut off what the anime did. Ooh, yeah. That's something that happens sometimes. But as far as I'm concerned, with remakes, I prefer you go for shows that have been less focused on, that you probably could, bring more out of. But I understand where you're coming from earlier, Devin and Sage, stuff like that. Cash grabs, like people want to play safe. They want to focus on the show that people love, which I mean that makes sense. You're gonna get easy money from it. You're still getting merch out of it. You're still getting attention to it. You're still getting games out of it. Cross branding and things like that. But yeah, it can get a little out of hand. But we are in the era of like the remake, nostalgia. I mean, it's so strange. I was talking to a friend in PSN yesterday. It's like, man, he told me specifically, said, hey man, I really hate that kids don't have it like we used to. I said, that's a lie. They getting all my shows. I literally saw Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I just saw Saved by the Bell. All the animes I watched as a kid, a lot of them are coming back. DBZ ain't never left. Naruto ain't never left. Bleach is coming back. Like, they're getting it all. All of it. I ain't got nothing to tell. Chip and Dale's got a trailer.
It did.
Wow.
The Animaniacs came back. Like, what? Like, no,
Damn, I forgot. You right.
Yeah, he is right.
The Ninja Turtles have been done multiple times.
Gladiator.
I said Ninja Turtles have been done multiple times.
Ooh, hadn't it? Power Rangers ain't going nowhere. Like it. Like in some ways, you could say like it kind of stagnated. Like it's just we just doing the same things over and over again. Rakeem actually kind of stepped on something that I'm gonna bring up in a little bit, but I'm gonna let Will go. Like, how do you feel, Will? Like, is it too much? Like, are we out of hand with the remakes, or is it like, look, it's plenty of new stuff. Just shut up and watch new stuff.
Honestly, I feel like I honestly feel like I don't even add much to this because David and King pretty much hit every mark I had in mind, including like something I wanted to talk about in regards to gaming. Like, I'm gonna ask all y'all this question here in regards to that. Do y'all remember a game called Dead Island?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dead Island. Oh yeah, the one that had the trailer that was that got everybody talking about it, and then it ended up being nothing like that.
Yeah. So did y'all know
A lot
that
of
they
games.
did y'all know that they actually are bringing 2 out now? They're
Yeah,
actually bringing the sequel out because someone actually bought the IP for it because the team behind it, when they were starting it, dissolved. And now they're bringing this forward this year, I think. And if not, it might be next year.
Well, are they trying to take their throne back from Dead by Daylight? Not Dead by Daylight, but what's the game called? Dying Light.
And then the same company produced both games, didn't it? Originally. I don't know the same team, but same
I don't think
company.
so. I don't think so, but that was just something I thought about, and I was like, they really trying to pull this game out of the ashes from like way back when. It'd be like, yeah, we bringing it out now, and I'm like, it's a little too late for that. But
It's easier, I guess. It's just safe, you know. That this is a safe project.
Yeah, it's a safe project, you have to say, but I do think it's a lot of new stuff now, and like Keem said, nostalgia just kind of blinds you too much, and if you let that blind you, you'll never see anything new or understand the nuances of the new thing that you have. And really, like I said, I don't really have much to add. They covered all my points. Like, they pretty much hit every single toe on each foot for me, so I'm just kind of like, what more can I add to that? So
Terrence, what do you think? Are you like in the same vein? Like, do you feel like it's the same? Like, just watch new stuff, or is it like the remakes is too much? Like, they need to like shake it up a little bit more.
So here's my thing with the remakes of anime so far. If we look at like the track record of them, it doesn't seem to be that good. Like,
it's 50-50, I would say.
Yeah, like the ones that we've been okay, like the one that stands out that all of us have mentioned is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That's like the definition of how you do a remake. Like, regardless of medium, honestly, like it's heads and shoulders like probably one of the best remakes of any medium period. But when I think of like other remakes that have happened in anime, like the Sailor Moon remake, and this kind of will go off into like another side thing that maybe you're going to get into later, Sage, is how, and Devin touched on this too, is like how art, like a change in art style really impacts how you view the old version of something versus the new version of something. Sailor Moon is like the prime example of it. It's funny, when Sailor Moon Crystal, when it was announced, I was hyped for it because, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I grew up on Sailor Moon. I loved it as a kid. And when they announced that they were going to remake it, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So a new generation gets to experience this. And when it finally came out, I saw the first couple episodes, and I was like, this is good in my opinion. But then I got online, and I started hearing from other people. Specifically, I remember a friend of a friend, when I asked, we just randomly started talking about Sailor Moon, and I asked her, yo, what do you think about Crystal? And she's like, I hate it. It's like the CG transformations are absolute garbage. And I was just like taken back. I was like, you think this is bad? And then when I got online, come to find out, a lot of people weren't really feeling it either. And I was just surprised because I thought that it was good for what it was. A lot of people just weren't feeling the art style. I was like, but this is kind of along the lines of what it originally looked like. And
they weren't trying to hit it.
Yeah, and we've discussed this before, how something can be how when they try to remake stuff and make it more along the lines of what it was in the beginning, if it doesn't end up vibing with what people first saw, like when people first saw like the original Sailor Moon, it looks completely different from Crystal. And it's funny, when Crystal came out, people hated it so much that they ended up going back to the original Sailor Moon. It's just something about how Sailor Moon has like, and Sailor Moon also has like that quintessential 90s, 80s, like 90s art style that people just really mess with now, especially now that a lot of the millennials, like people our age, have gotten older and they're starting to influence the market, and we're starting to see like 90s style come back in and everything. And so Sailor Moon has definitely been a part of that. So it's just interesting to see how when you bring out these remakes, how just a simple art style change can influence how people feel about it. I mean, another one, it's not really so much the art style, but more so the animation, is Berserk. I mean, when they did, it wasn't a remake, but I mean, it's a sequel, and people love the OG Berserk OVAs in the animated series. But then you have the new one, the CG one, and man, people trash on that for days. It's like the story is fine, but the art and the animation, woo-wee. People said throw the whole thing away. And I don't know. I guess really that's my only point that I have to add to the discussion, is that it's just really interesting to see how people respond to remakes when the art style is changed. And I don't know. I know you said 50-50, but I'm really just trying to think of like what other shows have really hit the nail on the head in terms of their remake outside of like your Full Metal Alchemist,
Hunter Cross Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter. Yeah, that's another one. Oh, you know what? Another remake that I just thought of that didn't work. They actually, I don't know if any of you remember this. Do you remember when they remade Speed Racer X?
Oh,
the one that they put on Nickelodeon.
I do remember.
Yeah. That one did not work at all. Like, it didn't have the spirit of OG Speed Racer at all. It was like, the only thing that was similar to it was, I mean, it had a guy named Speed and, I mean, his Mach 5. I mean, Trixie and the other characters were on there, but the spirit of it just wasn't there. And maybe that's the thing with these remakes, is that a lot of times the spirit of the original one that we enjoyed so much, it just isn't there with the remake. And it can take a lot to, it's like really trying to get lightning to strike twice. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean, sometimes you get a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and other times you get a Sailor Moon Crystal, where, you know, people just aren't feeling it. And I do agree with, I think it was Rakeem that mentioned, like I would like to see anime that never really finished to get their chance to come back. One that I could think of, especially, and it's topical now because Fire Force, they recently made it where I think it's a prequel to Soul Eater, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
They tied it together in some way, which was really interesting. I would love to see Soul Eater come back, because Soul Eater, the way it ended, it went off the rails and did its own thing. It deviated from the manga. I would love to see it come back and them stay faithful to the manga. And I mean, they don't even have to do a new art style. The art style that Bones did for the original animation, the original anime, it was fantastic. It was great. It still holds up today, so they don't really have to change anything. Just follow the manga. But yeah, that's really all that I have to add, is that remakes, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Sometimes the new art works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. It's a very 50-50 kind of thing, I guess.
There are two other ones that I can think of. I named them earlier. Y'all might not have seen them. Arslan, like Legend of Arslan, that was a remake of like a 90s OVA. And then Legend of the Galactic Heroes, also a remake of like a really old 80s, 90s anime. It was like an OVA. It was like the anime elitist choice of anime for a while. Like, you know, everybody was, you're watching Dragon Ball. I'm watching something with some culture. I'm watching Legend of the Galactic Heroes, you know. But it's a good show, but it like the fandom would kind of ruin it, because everybody like most of the fans were like super stuck up and shit. But like I fuck with like the remake is more faithful. It is better animated. It's really just newer animation. Like the old one was pretty well animated, but like it's better animated. It's more faithful to the source material. So I haven't seen too many people like go against it. It's still running, which is not really a surprise. The original took 10 years to come out, so I would not be surprised if this one takes around about the same length. The other thing
I do want to real quick add, one I guess remake in the sense that I thought, or I guess it's more like a reimagining, which may be a different topic, but Gatchaman Crowds is a really interesting anime in how it takes the Gatchaman show and it's a completely different, like the two aren't even, they're alike in name alone. And I guess they have Gatchaman in them. I mean, that's it. That kind of stuff is interesting. I'll put it that way. When you take an OG series and you like completely reimagine it, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I just want to toss that one out there just because it just came to mind. I was like, wow, that was a really interesting way of reimagining or remaking an old show.
I wanted to say something real quick too. I forgot because Shern, if I can talk, because Shern Sins was a good remake.
It was a remake.
Yeah,
it was like originally a 70s anime.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Now when you see the new one, it's like the animation is just like insane. Like it's pretty dope. I think it's kind of short, but that's a good example of like a good remake. What'd you say, Will?
I was gonna say it's short. I got it on DVD.
Yeah,
I bought it when it came out, and I love it.
It's
short, but it gets to the point it does exactly what I needed to do.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
The 90s sequel was really short. The 2000 one was not that long either. The other thing I wanted to ask, because we were talking about it, and Rakeem kind of stepped on it. So we're gonna come back around to Rakeem, but like he kind of stepped on it a little bit. It is kind of weird how I was gonna ask, like, you have the company aspect of it where it's like, okay, we're remaking this for some easy cash. We're gonna dip in everybody's pockets. But then it's also like, is it a little bit our fault? Because like when you think about it, like you have so many anime fans that are just stuck on the past. And we have something that I've talked with Rakeem about this before. I call them anime boomers. And it's not old anime fans. Because like I'm an old anime fan. We're all old. We're all older anime fans. We grew up, like I said, I talked about Gen 2 and all that type of stuff. But the ones that's really got the problem, and the reason why I call them boomers are like the Gen 3 anime fans, the ones that are obsessed with the big three, to the point where when new stuff comes out, they can't accept it. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen this online when people talk about like the new big three, and then you got all these like Gen 3 anime fans, they just kind of lose their shit. They be like, oh, there's no new big three, there's only one big three. And I'm like, first off, look here. Bleach wasn't that big in Japan. It was huge, but it wasn't that big in Japan compared to One Piece. It was really One Piece than everything else. But like Naruto was like very close-ish behind it, and then Bleach was like in a distant third or whatever. So like it wasn't even that big in Japan like that. Like the concept of a big three. Second off, like we had a big three in America. We had Trigun, Rurouni Kenshin, and Cowboy Bebop. That was the big three in America. Like long before all the other shit y'all talking about. But like now you have like the new shows, the new gen shonen series like Black Clover, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, and like they all kind of rising up, and the people are kind of getting in touch. Like the young crowd, the kids that are coming up today, they like 16, 17. They didn't grow up with Bleach and Naruto. Like that was around, but like their new era is gonna be this stuff that they seeing now. And so to see so many people get angry about it, I'm like, y'all sound old. And I'm talking as a person that watched 70s. I watch 80s anime regularly, 80s and early 90s anime regularly. But y'all the ones that sound old because y'all can't embrace like the new shit. Like y'all still talking about, man, nothing will ever touch us. It sounds like, and I know Rakeem and Will specifically are gonna identify with this. It sounds like all those old wrestling fans that just can't let go of the Attitude Era. They like, man, nothing will ever top Stone Cold in The Rock. Like, man, I'm sorry, like Kenny Omega is cold, bro. Like, what you want? Like, what you want from us? Like, he in there doing all the cool shit. And you still over here talking about Undertaker and Kane. Like, that's 1990s. Let it go. My nigga. And I say that about Naruto and Bleach and One Piece. Like, it's still good, but, like, let the new shit come along. And I don't know, like, does that bother y'all? Do y'all feel like there's nothing where, like, the new gen anime are still, like, good, and it's not like there's a noticeable drop-off? Like, Devin, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like it's a noticeable drop-off between stuff like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, My Hero, and, like, the big three? Do you feel like that?
So, this is something I've been noticing. I meant to say this when I was talking about how I got into anime. I'm pretty sure all of us in here are familiar with the Shonen Jump issues. when I first saw those, and I think that's kind of when I got my introduction to like some of the at that time the big three, like it had a lot of even had Yu-Gi-Oh in it. Would y'all consider Yu-Gi-Oh would have been one of the big three at one point, or?
I couldn't say that, but I know what you're talking about. Like I remember owning that manga that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like they had like the first volume. It was like Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Naruto. Bleach wasn't in that bitch. Like I said, this big three shit is out of hand. But like, I know what you're talking about.
I remember there was an anime and there was some Beelzebub, and I remember that was my first time seeing that in that. And I thought it was so cool, and that was my only time reading like one of those. It's the issue was in there, but I remember getting the Shonen Jump books and then just seeing all these anime that kind of like slowly kind of got to those big three levels. I remember Bleach. I remember seeing those in there. Of course, Naruto. I think Naruto might have been my introduction from Shonen Jump magazines. But it's definitely changed because over the years, like Sage just said. Every time there's new anime, and of course we're in the era now, like he just said, My Hero, which is one of my favorites, My Hero, Demon Slayer, really good anime. Some of the, like Terrence said, some of the best animation that I've ever seen. And it's just like I'm not one of those people that's like, man, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. It's like Sage just said, it's a transition of like these generations. Every generation is gonna have its big three. Now, I guess you could have an argument for saying like, oh, maybe there's like some like OG classic big three that we just feel like, or maybe our personal big three, like that we feel like they were just like such good anime, such high level that they just have like this spot at the top of always. One of mine, if I had to say one of mine, it'd be One Piece. I love One Piece. And it's crazy because it was one of the animes that took me a while to get into. Because I know I think some people here have this sentiment, but I know some other people that I knew too. They're like, man, I can't get into One Piece, man. It's like, and it kind of got me like that. Like I said, man, let me just stick with it, and it's one of my favorites, man. I mean, I spent one summer. I went from like episode 20 to like episode whatever in like a span of 2 days. It felt like. I did the same for Naruto. One summer coming home from school, I was like Naruto every day. One episode finished, right to the next. And this is when I used to watch stuff on I don't even know if this site still worked, but it was a site called Daily Motion. And for some reason, somebody had posted like, but that was old school.
Right, Keith.
Wait, what'd you say?
No, Keith just had his.
But that's what I used to, man. I'm telling you. So it's like there's always gonna be like different big three, man. I'm pretty sure the next like 5 to 10 years, there's gonna be some new anime come out. There's gonna be, because me honestly, I would say that One Punch Man kind of is straddling the fence of like a big three, and maybe I just say that because it's one of my favorites. I love the anime. Even JoJo, I would, again, another anime I really love personally. I would say that JoJo was kind of big three worthy, but JoJo is kind of like polarizing because a lot of people seem to like really like it, and then others like, oh, it's too weird. I'm like, ain't a lot of anime weird in the sense like there's a lot. I've seen some animes like.
Definitely.
I'm like, anime in itself is kind of weird and eccentric, so it's like, but I mean, JoJo is kind of, it does, I can see where they come from, because JoJo is kind of like very, it's like, it's had its own style that I really haven't seen from like any other anime. Even for some reason, I just thought about Fooly Cooly. Like at first, I saw an episode of Fooly Cooly once, I was like, what just happened? It looked like my screen just had like, my TV screen just like ate itself and spit it out. I was like, what just happened on my screen?
It happened in an episode of Fooly Cooly at one point.
I was like, yeah, what's going on? But yeah, I think like Say said, when you get to the point where you're like, no, this is the big three, and this is gonna be the big three. Ain't no other big three about it. So shut up about it. Ain't nobody talking about Demon Slayer. Shut up. Bleach is up there. Look, I love Bleach, but everybody got their own different tastes, and you can't bash one generation for having their big three because it's undeniable. You can't avoid it. There's gonna be some new anime that comes out every so often. There's gonna be the hot stuff that everybody loves, and you just can't avoid it. It's not that nobody's stepping on like what you loved as your big three in the generation that you came up watching anime in. It's just that things change. Now they can still have their place as some of the best anime, but when it comes to the top three that most people are watching, whatever's the most popular. Like right now, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, nobody can deny that that's one of the most popular right now. It's obviously in a big three spot right now. So to be like, no, Bleach is better than Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, Jujutsu Kaisen ain't got nothing on Bleach. You feel me? Bleach, the Shinigami, Kenpachi, Kendo, ain't nobody. No, just let people enjoy. Let people enjoy what they like, man. You know, Bankai, Getsuka Tincho. So when it comes to that, man, just let people enjoy what they enjoy in the eras because they're gonna change. And I guess maybe some people may feel like that when they watch these newer anime, they don't respect the older ones. Because I mean, a lot of times you do have cases where people don't go back and watch the older stuff. But I mean, that's other people's personal choice as well. That they feel like, well, you talking about this big three, go back and watch the big three when I was watching anime. If they don't want to watch it, that's up to them, man. So.
I'm glad you said that too, because I think about that a lot. Like I had this conversation with Rakeem before, where I talked about like when you think about it, the collective memory of anime fans pretty much stops at about 2006 or so. Like they don't all the stuff that we grew up watching. That's another reason why I say Gen 2 anime fans not the same thing as Generation 3, because like all them old shows, like they don't know nothing about no Trigun. Like a lot of these young kids, they don't know nothing about nobody's Trigun. They don't know nothing about no Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing was huge back in the day.
Desert
that
Punk
was everywhere. It was in all the
nowadays. You'd be lucky if any of them have watched a Gundam show.
Exactly.
They probably haven't. Like they might have watched. The only one they might know is G Gundam, and that's from like memes and shit like that. Like you see all the ridiculous, the hats and costumes and shit like that. You see all the crazy shit going on. You like, what is this? And they might watch that. But otherwise, like it's a lot of old shows like from that early Toonami's era, like that weekday Toonami era that they don't know nothing about. And, like, I can't make them go back and watch that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, you're not a real anime fan. You ain't go back and see it. No. And it's just as absurd when they sit there and tell you, like, oh, you know, if you watching this, you got to go back and watch, you know, One Piece and Bleach and Naruto. Like, they ain't got to do shit. Them shits, first of all, they long as fuck. Them shits long as like, the last 10 minutes of class. And you talking about some, they got to go watch. Like, I ain't watch shit. I will watch what I want to watch. And so, like, you got to accept that new generation. Like, I don't understand what the issue is. Rakeem, you kind of, like I said, you did, like, when you talked about the power scaling and can he beat Goku, I was like, dang, you really getting in there. But, like, what do you think? Like, do you feel like it's a problem that there are so many people that can't accept that it's, like, a new generation of anime fans? And with that, a new generation of shows that are, like, huge and their version of the big three?
Yeah, I think the worst part of it is that this is a conversation all of us have had before. I think Terrence was the one who brought this to light a long time ago. When these people talk, what's the worst part about it is they only speak about action, shonen, anime. Like every other genre of anime doesn't exist. So like, not only is it bad, it's so narrow that other genres of anime that have successful anime, and I'm guilty of this because I watch mainly action anime, but like I remember when I was younger, Great Teacher Onizuka was talked about a lot.
Ooh.
Like crazy.
Oh. That was a classic.
I used to hear about that a lot. Or like Golden Boy or something like that. Like really, really classic shows.
Yeah.
You know? And we never even really talk about animated movies because that's a whole other side of that too. Like really classic animated movies. Like the influence of Akira on American pop culture is ridiculous. I'm really surprised.
Bike slide every single time.
Every time. It's been maybe
I just watched anime where they make that reference. I'm like, wow, we're still doing this in 2020.
Yeah. The influence of Akira was ridiculous. I'm so surprised that hasn't been remade yet. They're working on it probably. But I'm surprised that hasn't been actually remade yet, like as an animated series. Because it had a whole manga, and they never got an anime. It only had the animated movie. But yeah, like that big three mindset. And I remember I had a conversation with my brother. You know, I talk to my brother a lot because he watches anime pretty consistently too. And he's 10 years younger than me, so he's like the next generation after me. So I talk to him about anime sometimes. I know, for one example, I tried to put him on Gundam and Mecha series. He refuses to watch Mecha because he grew up on One Piece. Well, he grew up on One Piece. He didn't like One Piece. He grew up on Naruto and really Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, and that was his stuff. Like everything else is like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto was like his magnum opus for a long time until Naruto had all the filler, and even he, as a young kid, got tired of all the filler. He stopped watching. But getting back to the original question, like the narrow mindset of like this big three mindset, it has to change over time. And as we're seeing new anime come out, it's beautiful to me that like I kind of put out every year like what were the big three of this year like that kind of exploded because like we're in the era of like a titan of anime right now, no pun intended, Attack on Titan. Like that show has really broken barriers and like it's really popular, talked about, and we're still watching it. You know, it's pretty close to being over now at this point, but like we're still in the era of that, and we still have Demon Slayer. We still have, that's probably gonna be in about a year or two too. We still have My Hero Academia, and these are like kind of like the big three. Kind of this area is like Demon Slayer to me anyway. Demon Slayer, My Hero, and Attack on Titan because they are like the most popular talked about show in anime. Period, over and over again, every season, every year. Maybe one day, like what's gonna happen. One thing I do like about the streaming service is that these newer audiences are able to see a lot more anime at once. So maybe that transition, because people are talking about newer animes a lot now. So it's like a new anime every year that kind of picks up by a majority of people and spreads among the anime community. And it's probably a broader audience that's kind of getting into that too. So hopefully over time this mentality will go away and we embrace more anime.
I do want to bring up one thing. You said, and I'm surprised it's not an Akira anime, and so I had to check. And yes, they are working on an Akira live action, not live action, but an Akira like anime TV series. So not a surprise. That shit was, like you said, hella influential. Will, does it bother you? Like, do you think about like these people that just they can't let it go, they can't accept it? It's like a new generation. Like you're not. It's not always gonna be your time. Like you can't be John Cena all the time. My time. You can't always be there. Like it's gonna have to be some new people eventually come along, and with those new people, a new era. Like, do you feel like it's out of hand, or do you feel like it's just a certain group, and then everything else is just?
I do think it's out of hand, straight up, because coming from me as someone who did enjoy some of the big three, I also branched out and started enjoying other things. I'm pretty sure Chance can relate to me on this one, where I started enjoying a lot more of slice of life rom-coms. I started getting into stuff like that alongside watching this other stuff. I still watch my shonen shows, but I also enjoy those others as well. So for me, on the outside looking in, watching these other shows and seeing these people stuck here, it made me feel like I was constantly distancing myself from this group. I was like, okay, I'm watching this, I'm watching that, I'm watching. And the other thing is, with the big three, is that I feel like a lot of people don't understand that you don't have to have over 100 to 1,000 episodes to get a point across. You need anywhere between, at least for me, anywhere between 18 to about 48 episodes is a great length to get a point across in a story, unless you break it up into seasons or something like that. Make it like a 2-3 course series or something like that. That's fine. I don't see the need to sit in front of my TV and watch 12 episodes or something every single day to catch up. I don't see a need in it. I really don't. And that's just me. Because I think at that point, you're wasting your time. And if you don't know where the fillers are, you definitely wasting your time. So I think the big three mentality has to stop. Well, not necessarily has to stop, but it has to die out. Because I know nothing just comes to a complete halt on its own. Everything slows down and it finally goes away. And like you said, Sage, it's not their time. Especially people who still believe in the whole Naruto, One Piece, Bleach trilogy thing. What you got to say, Kay? Talk to me.
I was about to say, that's a great point, Will, about the episode thing. As I've gotten older, I have realized I have a mental stopping point on anime. I didn't even realize I had it. Once an anime gets to 100 episodes, I'm out. I've noticed it. Every series I've ever watched that passed 100 episodes, I never finished it. Besides the old ones like DBZ that came on TV. Because it happened with Fairy Tail. It happened with I think D Gray Man. It happened with a couple other anime they hit 100, and I'm like, all right, bro, you tripping? Bleach. My first watching Bleach when I was in high school, and I remember watching it online. They got the episode 100. It was like right after the Save Rukia arc, and they had that vampire arc. I was out. Episode 100, I was out. I didn't realize it was happening until I just noticed, like, once I get the 1-on-1 and 1-on-2, I really stopped getting interested in these animes. I have a tap out, so I'm really on board with that now. As I've gotten older, I agree with you, Will. Like, animes kind of don't have to be these epics, these odysseys. Exactly. They can be concise stories. Some of our favorite animes, I'll never forget Soul Taker. When I was a kid, I watched Soul Taker on like G4. That thing's like 12 episodes, and it stuck with me. You don't have to do this. So I like that point, Will. I like that. What's up, Devin?
So I guess me and Rakeem are the opposites because I'm on episode 600 and some of One Piece, and I'm behind. I'm like way behind. So to say you're behind on the anime and you're on episode 600 says a lot. So, and I also want to make note of what Rakeem brought up earlier, and Will said it too with like the slice of life and other genre anime. I think that I'm pretty sure that probably most of us in here can attest that, and like a lot of anime we started with just kind of programmed it into us. Most of anime was just power, bam, bam, shoot energy blasts, just all kind of crazy stuff going on. Like that's what we were like used to. See, exactly, like a lot of fighting, a lot of hair going everywhere, a lot of energy, like just stuff happening, action. So that's what we were normally seeing, but I kind of had to break myself away from that too. Now I still enjoy like action anime, that's my favorite, but even like JoJo, it's an action, but it has like a lot of like kind of. It's almost like a weird like mystery, kind of some horror stuff going on there too. So it's like a mixture of it, with some pretty decent storytelling. But the anime that got me to switch over, and I was like very skeptical at first, Hajime no Ippo. I was like, a sports anime, boxing? I don't even watch boxing in real life. Man, when I tell you that's one of my favorite anime all time, boy, that boy Ippo. DMC rolling, man. Look, I was convinced. I was like, yo, so there are other genre of anime that are out here that are fire. Kuroko no Basket. I'm like, bro, they playing basket. Like, bro, yo, those were two examples of me being like, okay, it's good to expand your horizons because man, you find some gems and other stuff, man, for real.
Yep.
Terrence, I believe it's you, man. Like, is there like a big, like, do you have an issue with like these people that just can't accept that it's like a new generation? Are you like, it's kind of is what it is, like, because like most of those people, like I said, they Gen 3, they young anime fans, so they're younger than us, even if they are like in their mid to late 20s. So like does it bother you, or do you just kind of like, all right, when they get to our age, they'll get over it?
Just to make sure, you didn't have anything else to add, right, Will?
The only thing I really had to kind of add is that I think that now that we're in this streaming service era of anime, and we still have those fans that love those big three, and with how much anime kind of comes out, I think, and just like Devin said, we're kind of programmed to get into things like just get straight to the point, the action, and a bit of the storytelling in between. I think with how much we have put out and how they are programmed, they can't get into nothing because these things are trying to tell a story all front before you have to fight. I think it's the way the storytelling and the pacing has went. That's the way I think. Maybe I could be wrong here, but I think it's the way things are being done now as compared to back then. And I think it's because of the amount of things coming out. They're just like, where do I start? I don't know how to pick a show. I just know what to watch and what I'm looking for. That's what it is. And that's my last point there. I think it's that.
Say, imagine if we had like this big three discussion for any other medium. Like, look, think about if we told kids nowadays, like, in order to enjoy movies, you got to sit down and you got to watch Citizen Kane. No kid gonna sit and watch Citizen Kane. Get out of here, man. Or not to make it like political or anything, but when the Oscars came about, when the Oscar nominations came, was that like in 2019 or 2020, whatever the year that Parasite was nominated.
Yeah.
I think that was 2019. But when Donald Trump had his comments on the Oscar noms, he was like, I miss when we had movies like, Gone with the Wind. Where's stuff like that? It's like, dude, you're referencing a movie from, when was Gone with the Wind? Like, what, the 30s?
Fucking 30s or the 40s.
It's like, why you going way back, man? It's like, ain't nobody studying those kind of movies now. It's not that those movies weren't impactful, don't get me wrong, but to act like you have to go back and watch this older stuff just to appreciate the new stuff, it's like, no, that's not how it works. I mean, heck, even in Avengers Infinity War, when Peter Parker talked about, hey, you remember that old movie Aliens? And it's like, wow, when you think about it, it's like for him, I mean, that movie came out in 1979. It would be old. It was
that movie old to us, so
it's old to us, but us hearing it, it's like you think about it, it's like, yeah, I guess from his perspective, it would be old. But I say all that to say is that this whole concept of a big three for anime now is just outdated. I really don't think that we need to think in terms of threes anymore. There's so much anime out there now. Like Rakim, I believe, mentioned earlier. It's like every single season, or like I think it was you that Sage that mentioned, or somebody. We probably all mentioned it at some point. It's like just so much anime. It's like 30, 40 shows that come out like every
40
season. Like
40 shows a season at least.
Yeah, it's like if we count all the shorts and all the other stuff that comes out, it's like it's like tons of anime. There's so much anime out now that it's hard to keep up with it. Like I've talked about this before, how it was it was last winter, the last winter season, winter of 2021, where pretty much everything that had been delayed due to COVID came out. Like Promised Neverland season 2, Dr. Stone season 2. So much stuff came out this season, and I tried to watch it all. I experienced anime burnout, and for almost the rest of the year, I didn't watch. I watched hardly any anime just because I just watched too much at once. And so we're just at this point now where you have so much choice, and the fact that we also have streaming services now, multiple streaming services that have anime. There's way too many shows to be focused on just a narrow 3. And like you all have mentioned, there's so many genres that a lot of people don't touch. And a lot of times when they think about a quote-unquote big 3, they're just thinking of like the shonen or more action-oriented anime. And there's so much out there. I'm not saying that you have to experience everything. You know, some genres just aren't for you. You know, some people aren't going to like slice of life or like horror anime or more of like the anime that are kind of like a slow burn. And that's okay. You know, you're saying that you don't like certain genres, you know, that's not saying that you hate it. It's just not for you. It is what it is. But to act like there's definitively 3 shows that you have to watch, no matter what generation, no matter what time frame you grew up or anything like that, you have to watch these in order to understand how anime works. It's just, that's the wrong take to have, in my opinion. You know, to act like you have to watch Naruto, you have to watch Bleach, you have to watch One Piece in order to get anime. It's like, nah, man, just watch whatever it is that you like, and as long as you're enjoying anime, then you're an anime fan. Let's not make this into some gatekeeping nonsense where it's like you have to be into like a big 3 or something like that. What are you gonna say, Will?
I'm gonna say like what you just said, like you don't have to necessarily watch those 3 to really get it. Just a little quick question. No one has to really give a big explanation, but how would you yourself try to get someone who has never sat down and watched an anime to watch something in particular? Like, not necessarily like, how do I get them to watch?
Nobody answered that question. You know? Nobody answered that question because that's good enough to be a podcast topic unto itself. Gotcha. That's
okay.
Excellent.
I was ready.
Okay. Hey, he's got us ready for next time.
He does.
Yeah, but that's pretty much just my take on it, is that there's no big 3 for any other medium. There's no big 3 for movies, no big 3 for books or anything like that. So why? Huh?
That's not basketball. Hey,
All they talk about basketball.
All they talk about in basketball is big 3 this, big 3 that, big 3 this. I'm so tired of it.
Yeah,
That's the only time I want to hear about big 3.
There's no big 3 for books, so let's kind of just throw away this idea of a big 3. It was cool at the time, and I understand why we called it the big 3. But let's cut this out. It's like, it's 2022. We have tons of anime, hundreds of anime that come out every year. You should be watching more than 3 shows if you're really into anime like that. Come on.
Actually, Rakeem, all of y'all have made a great point when it comes to like the fact that there's so much stuff on streaming now that you can watch other stuff. And I guess that's kind of where like the whole concept of a big 3 came from. That's why I keep bringing up like these generations. Like when you get, by the time you got to like generation 3, which is like 2005, 2006, anime was more on the downswing at that point. Like it wasn't what it was when like anime first came with like Toonami and shit. It wasn't what it used to be. Like it was kind of like the popularity, it kind of shifted downwards, and it was like there was still a few really popular shows, but everything else, like you had still Dragon Ball Z, still the big 3. You had like your Death Note, and then there were a couple other shows that were like popular enough to be on television, and then that was it. But like we weren't really like, the society wasn't as on the internet back then like it is now. Like 2007, 2008, 2009, society wasn't really on the internet as much. Like you didn't have the smartphones and all that shit. So kind of it forced them to watch only a handful of shows, as opposed to like when we were growing up, where there was like Keem said earlier, there was anime on every network. Like you could go to like USA or like Fox Kids or like Cartoon Network or wherever, and it was always some kind of anime to watch. So like we didn't like the mindset of it's a big 3. Like really? Like, why? Like, why would I only limit myself to 3? There's always something new. And then you combine that with, like, the longevity of those 3 shows, the fact that it really is, you could have started watching Naruto in 2007, and you wouldn't have finished it until, like, 2015. I think that's when 2015 to 2016 is when it finished in America. And it's like, bro, that's a long time. That's so long. Like, at that point, like, you so old. Like you went through like all of high school, possibly all of from junior high to high school. Imagine just having one show that you watched the whole time. We kind of had that. We had Dragon Ball Z, but like that was just the one show. Like everything else, that was like the exception to the rule, as opposed to like that being the rule, where it's just like, yeah, it's just these shows all the time. So I guess that is where that mindset kind of comes from. But all right, man, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. If you like this, do us a favor. Hit the subscription button on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. And hopefully you have an excellent rest of your week. Peace.
Peace out.
See you all later.